Good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. I'm your host, Keith Parris. I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. Good morning, Byron. Good morning, Jermaine.
Good morning. Good morning.
How was everybody's weekend?
Great, man. Mine was great, man. Had a gig at the packing house, so it was nice. It was fun. Made some money as usual.
Were they hiring?
I don't know if the packing house is hiring. I don't know.
I know that used to be. Well, you know what? He was never my colleague. I was just sitting up here thinking about Sherwin Hughes. I came here after Sherwin, so we were never colleagues. Yeah. But I had others. Byron, how was your weekend, man? Good?
Yeah, man, it was good. It wasn't eventful or nothing, but at this point, I just be trying to get a good nap in.
And you didn't go to jail.
Right,
for
that
real.
part.
Go to jail on the weekend. So anyway, let me shout out the young folks there at Zion Hill Missionary Baptist Church. Yesterday was our last children's church for the school year, and I'm gonna tell you, man, you never think about things and how much things mean to people, and especially children, younger people.
Yeah.
So we gave everyone a certificate, just because they're transitioning. Either we had two that are transitioning from high school to adulthood, basically. Then we had the other kids there at various ages, some going into middle school, some going in high school, some being, transitioned from this grade to that grade. So we gave them all certificates. And so, and the one good thing about Children's Church there, Zion Hill, is you're gonna eat good. So yesterday we had sloppy joes, and it was great. But so as we gave out the certificates, they're framed. So on the table, all the kids had their certificates up, and they were just staring at the certificates.
Wow.
And I said, I didn't think it mean that much to them,
Wow.
But yeah, I think we worded it in such a way where it's not, you were a superstar in school. You just you got from this grade to that grade. Like some of us, they said some people graduated from college, magna cum laude, and others graduated from college. Thank you, Lottie. But yeah, but to watch them, it was so interesting. I took one picture of them sitting there at the table, and how they were just looking at their little names on the certificates. And so I thank everyone who brought them out. It's a cool thing because everyone talks about children, and they want to blame all the ills of the world on children and young people. But no, you just see their potential, and just how, that you see hope, you see potential, and that's the investment that I think we have to make in our kids. That I could tell you that when the one thing when I was doing youth ministry at Metropolitan, same thing as Zion Hill, whatever we needed for the young folks, we got. And I think you make that investment. I wish they would they made that investment in us too. So I'm just still tripping on how, this very prosperous church when I was a kid, and we go to Vacation Bible School and we get like graham crackers and milk. It wasn't until Sister Wanzo had the hot lunch program, but by that time I'm an adult, I'm working.
So question, because I remember back in the day, churches used to have like the summer, what was it called? Summer Vacation Bible School.
Vacation Bible School.
Okay, so I remember churches man used to do that, and you used to see kids flocking to these churches and doing things like that because it was a period of time. I think it was from like noon until like what was it, 2 or 3 or something like that, and you see all these kids running around and playing, but at the same time it was keeping them out of trouble. It was keeping them away from mischievous things that they could have been getting into.
We when Gary and I, we were living on 2nd Street then with Mom, and we went to Mount Olives. They used to be on was King Drive, now 3rd Street.
Mm.
And dude, they had the best vacation Bible school. I don't know if I learned anything about Jesus, but I know we showed it eat good
And you wanted to be there
because we ate
'cause
good.
you ate good.
Oh
and you was
man, we
around
ate
people,
good, man. You around young people,
Yeah.
dude. They had no problems getting me to do anything
Yeah.
because we ate so good. Sloppy joes, hot dogs, hamburger. Oh man, we ate so good. And then they moved. So we come around the corner that next summer and they gone, man. So now we gotta go to Metropolitan. Like, oh Lord, here we go. Graham crackers and milk. So thank God for Miss Wanza who came in. They ended up doing the the hot lunch and tutorial program during the summer. And so then we could hire young people from the church. That was the great thing about Metropolitan. If you wanted to work as a teenager, there were people there. We had Mr. Jones, who was out at the VA. There were people who worked with him out at the VA during the summer and after school. There was Sister Isabel. She was down at Blue Cross Blue Shield. A whole lot of folks worked, Blue Cross Blue Shield. And then Rhonda, when she was running her health clinic, the young people there could work part-time, come home during the summer and work. So, if you're that Metropolitan, you wanted to work as a kid, there was people there that could put you to work. So you always had money in your pocket. And maybe that's why some people were so much better dressed than me, because they had all that money. But no, I mean, they did very well. And so we always had that level of support. And then just the things that you do with young people. I know that there's a certain generation there that really remember the retreats we would go on. And I was asking one of the young people. She's a grown woman now. I was asking her. I said, y'all wasn't smoking weed. She go, oh no, we took that too seriously. No, we wasn't. Now I came from a group where there could have been a couple people out in the woods blowing it up, But no, it was always that 3 day, because it's 3 days where we could really just kind of focus on things. And my approach, I know, which was kind of a departure from BTU, a departure from what they did at YPWW, was to put these kids in situations where, what is your decision making?
Yeah.
And that's what religion is supposed to help you do.
Yeah.
Make the right decisions, positive decisions. So that's what we did. We did a whole lot. And let me, my friend, Glennis Underwood, we invited Glennis up to talk to the kids, and she talked about the importance of the book of Proverbs and wisdom. And it had more impact on me, I think, than it did the kids, in terms of, let me look at Proverbs again. So yeah, we did that. But because I was saying last week, we were on retreat when we found out about the DC sniper.
Oh yeah.
And so it was all kids always looked forward to it. There were kids who were 11. They couldn't wait to turn 12.
Yeah.
I had one young lady, I looked up and she did not meet the age criteria, but some kind of way she was able to get up there with us. So you made it. And so with kids, young kids would have something really to look forward to.
Yeah.
I think it was the same thing with us in the choir. People on the usher board when we were kids, that was something that you really could look forward to, because looked like we had an enormous amount of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe sometimes too much fun. But I think that at that point, you're children, and you should be able to have a childhood. You should and then do the positive reinforcement in terms of young men and young women and how they're coming up. Let me shout out Lorraine Lathan. I was doing some work with Planned Parenthood, and I talked about it. There was a faith-based initiative where they were going to go in and teach responsible, like healthy sexual relation and understanding of sex. And so I always looked at it from that perspective, especially when you're talking to kids. Talked about it from health perspectives. We talk about it from a moral perspective, but really kind of the health issues around there. And we're trying to put together criteria for a lesson that they could use in churches, because that's real problematic when we're talking about sex in the church. Lord, let's not talk about that.
Right.
We're talking about sex,
baby.
We're talking about me and you. But they have that adult, not an adult conversation, but always. And I'm a proponent of abstinence plus, right? That abstinence is the best form of birth control.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be sexually active, you need to be responsible.
Yeah.
And look, prohibition, I know I hate to put it this way, prohibition has never worked, obviously. And so there's a whole lot. And I think, especially when you begin to bring religion into it, and then it gets into a whole lot of things where people made some very dangerous decisions. And a lot of it was just being able to have that conversation and have hard conversations around issues of sexual orientation and how do parents have these discussions with their children. So let me shout out Lorraine. We took a group of boys and girls up from several churches in the city. We thought it'd be a great idea. We're going to show Baby Boy, but we're gonna split the group up. Boys here, girls here to watch Baby Boy.
Yeah.
So with the girls, they knew every line for Baby Boy. The dudes were asleep.
Oh,
They didn't want to watch Rodney. They they was asleep, man. And so the movie that we should have shown to the girls was either this movie called 13, which talks about just how 13 girls going into puberty, or Mean Girls, where girls begin to clan up as boys clan up.
Yeah.
And part of being an adult is that at some point we select a clan.
Yeah.
So So anyway, great. And then I can talk about the funeral after this. Carl, welcome to the program.
Hey, how you doing, Keith?
I'm good.
Yeah, you must have been reading my mind this morning.
Why is that?
Because my 12-year-old son been begging for work, and ain't no way. I done tried and called people and everything, and they just don't hire 12 years old.
Right.
And I was wondering if anybody had any information on because he really want to work bad.
I don't know where Earn and Learn starts. I don't know if you have to be 14 to be Earn and Learn.
That's what I was
Back in the day, the Commandos used to have the summer work program through then. I think it was NYC, Neighborhood Youth Corps. And they had 12 and 13-year-olds. They played on the playground down at the old Garfield Park, now Rose Park.
Mm-hmm.
The 14-year-olds had to clean alleys. 14 and above, you out cleaning up alleys, cleaning up. So I don't know what it is with Earn and Learn, because you have to be eligible for a work permit.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to work bad.
Well, that's good. I mean, nothing else, cutting grass. I mean, that's the whole thing about the work ethic. If you learn a work ethic when you're young, then that's something that's going to say. There's some people, I just bumped into a young man, and he's just like his mom, 2-3 jobs, and he was young,
Right.
So teach young people that you need to earn it. Always have a job. I always had a job, and I'm not going to always tell you I worked on that job, but I certainly had one.
Yeah. He seen me work all my life, and he know, and that's what I teach him, about, working. And he want to cut grass, but I would have to be the one that, I'm retired, but I would have to be the one that had to ride him around. And
yeah, I mean, but my godson, that's part of, how he get a little money in his pocket. I call him now my lawn guy. And once he kind of knew how I wanted it done, he gets out, he gets it done. And then because he works at Syndics on North Avenue. So we go and pick him up or drop him off. We go down Pasadena, which is this beautiful street in Wauwatosa between Center and North Avenue.
Oh, yeah.
And so we look at the homes, we looking at the lawns and, taking that all in.
Yeah.
And I can see the level of pride that he takes in his work now, because over and beyond you getting paid, it is, I'm able to do this. So I appreciate him for that. Just always have a job, man. I mean, always had a job. That was since I was, man. So I was
me too. But I'm letting him practice on the yard here. I throw him out a few dollars because I tell him you really don't get paid to cut grass at home.
Well, if you live there, right? That's just that's like chores. You don't get paid for doing chores.
I still throw him a few dollars.
Room and board. You just earn a room and board.
Right. But see, I let him practice because I like I told him, when you cut other people's lawn, you can't have cut it like you cut the line here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You got
and
to
that's
be
the other
right.
piece of it. I never had to say to him, every now and then I might notice something because the perfectionist in me. But man, no,
But
man,
me,
he know exactly what he needs to do. He gets it done. Like I say, he takes pride in it, and that's a piece of it that when you work for somebody, that at least you give them your best work. I mean, and if I said they ain't paying, hey, I signed up for it. That's what they charge. That's what I charge them. Don't be going in now talking about they ain't paying me enough. Hey, ain't no victims.
no, he ain't like that. But
No, man, I signed up for it.
how did your nephew? You say your nephew or your godson?
My godson.
Well, how he get his clientele? Because
Well, he ended up picking up a little gig across the alley. They saw him cutting grass, and they said, would your grandson want to come over and cut our grass? I said, it's up to him. And man, he went over with the lawnmower.
Right.
And you're distracting me over here. Bubbles. You know what's happening. Bubbles. Yeah. I just got some earn and learn starts at 14. It goes from 14 to 24.
See, that's what I was getting. I was like the county jobs and all them. They had one program, but they said that was been full since March.
What's interesting? Talking about those county summer jobs. I applied for a summer job. I don't know how, it must have been 16, something like that with the county. I didn't get the job. Someone filed a class action lawsuit about all the people who had gone in and applied, black folks who had not been, I think it's the Jones case or and so I didn't get any money. My mama got money. I didn't get money. What I got seniority. Right. Now that's important because that's your vacation. That's layoffs. So I came in and I didn't realize this when I first started with the county. I had more seniority than some of the people who were working there. And I didn't find out. Johnny Jones, that was the name of it. They talk about, you got Johnny Jones? You got Johnny Jones? You had Johnny Jones. And so I was able to, so I had seniority. Now, when you become a manager, seniority then doesn't matter, because it's you had a different, but yeah, when I was when I was a worker and I would have known I could have transferred where I wanted to transfer. I didn't even know until I got promoted to supervisor. And this sister, Cheryl Beckley, she said, Keith, did you know that you have Johnny Jones? I'm like, no, you got Johnny Jones?
Like, who is Johnny Jones?
Yeah, Johnny Jones was, I think he was a dishwasher at the county. And there were some things about his literacy. It was something where he filed a class action because he wasn't being promoted. And they didn't promote him because he was black. And so, and I don't know if that settlement is still in place. I don't even know if there's anybody even left at the county who was covered by Johnny Jones. But it was really for seniority for some folks. Like I said, my mama got a check. So, because she was a current county employee when they settled that case. So good luck with that.
Okay, can I ask another thing what is a good a real good junior high school? He real smart and everything.
Well, they closed Parkman.
You know what? You want to comment?
I could tell you. I think go to my year is probably in terms of middle school, and I'm trying to think King. I think King has
King got a middle school.
Got a middle school. I don't know, and so I'm not going to sit out and say which school is better than NPS because I'm not that familiar with the schools now in NPS. But I do know Go to My Year is like one of the top schools in the state. So,
and you mentioned Metropolitan.
Yes, sir.
I used to go to Metropolitan long time ago. That was back in the 80s.
Okay, that's under Pastor Wanzo.
It was actually one of those. I used to sit up in the top up there, because we come up on Columbia Playground and a lot of people.
Right.
On Columbia, they done bad all week, and then they'll, show up in church on some Sunday.
Well, the reason why Metropolitan was so popular with the especially the dudes on Columbia Playground was they'd come through the hot lunch program. So a lot of them during the summer would come through the tutorial program and the hot lunch program. That's where I learned a lot of those dudes. I'll call out this dude. I don't know what his government name was, but Mouse.
Little Mouse.
Yeah, everybody talk about how Mouse could jump. So that was always.
He was a gambler too.
I don't know about all that, You know, there's some other dudes I do know over there was gamblers.
Yeah. No, you
no,
probably
but
know
that's why
me.
we
One of 'em.
we fed so we fed the kids in the community, and that's why that was really popular there in terms of they look forward. They even come to vacation Bible school. Yep.
You know another thing? See, back then they didn't have all that parking lot.
Right.
And the people had to park on around on Columbia and on 14th, and with nobody over there on that park, let nobody bother their car.
Yep.
That wouldn't happen. You know what I'm saying? It just wouldn't happen. You wasn't gonna bother breaking nobody's car, mess with nobody's car, nothing like that. And my partner, the last thing, my partner, he stayed right behind Metropolitan, and he had a CB. And then you used to have to come from Metropolitan and ask him to.
Oh yeah, because we went to the because
come through the piano.
the wireless, and so we pick up the free. That's right. That's right. We had a CB going on doing church. Man, that's a memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Okay, man. Thanks.
You're listening to Community Voice. Caller, I see you. I'm going to grab you right after the break. We'll be right back.
UNOV 860 AM and 106.5 FM with your host, Keith Parris.
Wake up, everybody.
Get your ass up there. Who was it last night? The dude they was talking about who did he play with? I don't know if it's a kid with OKC. Yeah, Wiggins. His folks are military.
Yeah, Wiggins. Yeah.
And they was talking about him not doing the dishes.
What?
Okay. All right. And he said that one time he didn't do the dishes. His mama came to school, took him out of school, made him go home, wash the dishes, and then bring him back to school.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That never would have happened because I would be seeing like lightning.
Oh, yeah, stars.
And that's when my mama's hitting me.
I see blue.
I see blue. That's when she hit me to get me up at 2 in the morning to do those dishes I was supposed to do. Caller, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Turn your radio off.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Good, man. Turn your radio down.
I turned it off. Let me pull over. The man that called, his son for the work. The best thing he needs to do is get a paper route. And she be making 5 years. Because if you go get a paper route and give it to the child, you're doing it together with them. So that's bonding, and that's teaching them how to work, and that's teaching them presence and being a young man. You get your paper route with 500 papers, get it done. You got $500 a week. You just got to pay how much it is. And the money can go to him. I know it's about the 14 being the law of working, but I've been working since I was 12. I've been cutting grass. I've been painting. But the best thing you can do to have some steady money is to get a paper route and do the hotels because they still get papers just about every day. And that'd be $500 in his pocket. And that would be money he can put away for him too. And that's
people doing the paper routes now, and we only get papers on Wednesday, actual paper on Wednesdays and Sundays.
Yeah, but the hotels do it every day.
Yeah.
The hotel route is pretty nice.
You know, it's funny, man, because when I used to travel, the one thing I always had to have was a New York Times, right? And that's how I knew how good the hotel was. If they had the New York Times down in the bookstore, I get up there as the bookstore is open, little convenience store. They get the New York Times, man. But now I have it, online. And that's what
they're doing that a lot too.
You're doing a lot. But I think in order to keep the journal subscription, you have to take Wednesday and Sunday. Those are ad days.
Yeah, just to get it. That's just my iron in the pot for the young man caller, because he said, if you really want to work, he can start working by next week, because he'll have them papers dropped off to him, and he's going to give him all the hotel routes. He just got to be willing to do it with him.
Yeah, but you got to get up early in the morning.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If he in love with his grandson like that or something like that, he don't help. He really want to do it. He should have time to find one. That's all I'm saying. Because enough men not spending time with their kids up there. But I miss Keon. I love y'all.
All right, man. Me too.
Stay focused.
All right, thank you, bro. Yeah, back in the day, I guess the thing I really wanted most, sneakers didn't become a thing I really worked for until I became like a 12-year-old. But prior to that, it was going to wrestling matches, right? And so, man, the way we hustled, I don't know where we found the shopping carts, but we would load those shopping carts up with bottles called bottle hustlers. So I think you got 5 cents on the 16 ounce, but if you got that 32 ounce, that was a whole quarter, dude. And man, I didn't miss a wrestling match. We get out and hustle, and man, make sure we need to do cut grass, what we need to do, man, to get down to the arena. Cans. Oh man, well, see, it became cans later, but prior to that, because it wasn't a lot of, you had canned sodas, but the recyclables were the bottles. Oh yeah, because the bottles was redeemable. Because really, what people would do is there is a company called Edelweiss. I don't know if you've ever seen Edelweiss. They do like milk. It's a dairy. Oh, okay. But they do milk, but then they also do like tea, juices, and their bottles are returnable. So you go and you get a price. You can take the bottle back, and you get. So that goes back to, but now with the recycling, with the cans, and metal, they were just talking about, what was it, the bus company where they went out and they stole all the catalytic converters. Like yeah, and they get them for what, the metal.
Yeah.
And then talking about churches, there was a time, and I don't know if you notice, you drive by churches now and you see where their air conditioners are all fenced in and locked up.
Yeah, Doctor,
man,
was taking that metal.
They take they because Metropolitan, they got Metropolitan, they got Way Across. Yeah. I remember all this, and then it was a national group because they said you have to know what you're doing because you can get electrocuted.
Yeah.
So they're going in, but now you see them fenced off.
Yeah.
And then they had this company had their air conditioning system on the roof.
On the roof, and they got up there.
Yeah, they brought in something to take. So, people, man, you know what? People have been stealing since. I guess that's why. Is that one of the commandments? Thou shalt not steal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, going even back there, it was some thieves that was on the cross next to Jesus.
I was out at a rally that Jesse Jackson had, and E.V. Hill. I don't know if you ever heard E.V. Hill preach. E.V. Hill was a preaching somebody. Mm. And so E.V. Hill's job was to raise the money. And E.V. Hill gets up and he says, look, there are designated buckets. Put your money only in the designated buckets. He said, because there are ripiums among us.
Ripiums. Wow.
And I forget about this little piece. At the Million Man March, they asked every brother to give $1. Every brother to give $1. So they passing up, man. They started in the back. Now remember if you were there or if you saw it on TV, you saw people were all the way from the Capitol to the Washington Monument.
Yeah.
So they passed it, and nobody touched that money. Put your money in the bucket and keep it moving.
And nobody
took the money. Come on, man. Come on, man.
So can you imagine how many blocks that bucket had to travel?
That it traveled at least 4 blocks. It traveled about 1.5 miles because they estimate from the Capitol to the Washington Monument is about 1.5 miles.
Wow.
There's 1.5 miles. That is the phenomenon.
That's incredible, man.
Of that march that that's people, incredible. You're talking about inaugurations where I think Obama had I know he had over 1 million at the inauguration, that first one. I remember my sister and some other folks went out for that, how cold it was, but he had at least 1 million. So you and unless you've ever been in a crowd like that, you don't have a sense of just how big it is. My goddaughter, they were just in New York City, and she was just talking about how you get to Times Square, and on a decent night when the weather's decent, man, it's so many people. You have not seen that many people in one place. So yeah, but the Million Man March was something, man, because we took the metro in, we got off at the Forester. I think that was our stop, and we walked. Tyrone Dumas was with us. We walked, and no, Tyrone wasn't with us. Tyrone was already there, but we walked, man. We walked up on, and you didn't hear anything. And then when you get to, I want to say New Jersey, which kind of abuts the mall. And you walk out at 1 million people.
Wow.
1 million people. You just didn't get a sense of it. And I always talk about that day because my mom, my wife, and my oldest nephew, and that's still when you go to the gate, took me to the airport. And man, so Rhonda was going to drop me off and go to work. She ended up taking the day off because I don't know if anybody kind of remember the history of that day. C-SPAN had started showing it. I remember watching C-SPAN early in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I think BET had picked it up.
Yeah, BET did.
By noon, the networks had picked it up.
Yeah, like CNN.
Yeah, I mean, and then and there's that one shot you get, and that must have been about 11 in the morning. That was the peak crowd, right? Yeah. Where you could just look and it was just a sea of people, man. And you in the middle of that. And like I said, one of the coldest things ever was watching Farrakhan come down those stairs. He didn't come down, like pimpish, but he came down strong the way they was coming down the stairs and to see these brothers in the FOI. Oh man, it was just like, whoa, this was something, man. So thank God I wasn't old enough to go to the March on Washington, but to be able to have the privilege and the blessing to go to the Million Man March. I say this all the time. The Creator chooses whomever. The Creator chooses to do the work of the Creator. Sometimes we get caught up in a label and we miss that the purpose is bigger than all of our labels.
Yeah.
And most major Black religious denominations denounced the march because of Farrakhan. In spite of that, many of their members
were there.
Oh, I remember we were in the airport coming back, and we saw then Pastor Cedric Daniels, who was out there in the Church of God in Christ, had come out real strong, against the Million Man March, as did the Baptist Church, all these different churches coming out because of Farrakhan. And I'm going like, yeah, but, there's nobody perfect. And look, this is how I knew it was God. Because in spite of that, 1 million Black men showed up. That showed me something, because we get in our little titles and which group is right, and I was listening to Bishop Yvette Flunder, and she was talking about how when she grew up in Kojic, I grew up in Pentecostal tradition, and she was looking, because she must have been at a religious school, and she said, y'all wasn't saved.
Yeah.
That was the attitude, and a lot of that whole piece. The word denomination means to divide, right? Yeah. And so but all of us want to believe that we're right and everybody else is wrong. Might I suggest this? How about you just be right for you?
Not be right.
And people's path to God is just their path to God. And everybody who calls themselves Christian ain't always Christian. And so maybe that's what we should look at. And there are bigger things out there that transcends. I'll never forget the Lutheran minister. They had this ecumenical prayer, and they were threatening to defrock him because he decided that he would have this ecumenical moment, and his denomination said no. And then this is what always troubles me about Christianity, is that where it seemed to me that Jesus wanted to be inclusive, as Christians, we're very exclusive, right? And we use a lot of different ways to exclude people, either through class, through education. I'm going to put it out there, sexual orientation, all these things that matter more to people than they do to God. And so I said all the time, I said, people come into church looking for Jesus and they get us. Caller, welcome to the program. Yeah, so I maybe in my little life, and if I tend to be a little bit more ecumenical or more inclusive, I think that there's something that's really bigger. And I certainly let me shout out Bishop Desmond Tutu, who reminds us of Ubuntu. And Ubuntu is our connectedness as other human beings to other human beings. That transcends any of these labels that we have. The story of the Samaritan was Ubuntu. The people, his kinfolks, this man who was in distress, his kinfolks decided to walk across the street. And there was someone who there was obviously hostilities there, but he went beyond the whole parochial, denominational thing to see that there was a human being in need. Seems that Jesus talked a lot about how we should deal with people who are in need. And we spend more time trying to get into our little doctrines and dogmas. And because, there were disciples saying, there are people going out doing this in the name of such and such. Jesus said, look, it doesn't matter whose name they do it in. It's what they're doing that matters. And I know that you always hear people say, you can't get into heaven on your good works. I advise you to go and read Matthew 25. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, Doc. I had to chime in because, it bothers me that everybody picks on Christianity, but I never hear you talk about the Muslim faith. Never hear you talk about.
I'm not a Muslim.
Yeah, but their doctrine is just as dogmatic as Christianity, if not more dogmatic. So why do you do these things? I just want to know that because, and guess what?
Because I'm a Christian, and I think that we should be able to withstand scrutiny and critique, and understand that we're not perfect. I cannot say what a Muslim should or should not do. I'm probably in a better position to say what a Christian should or should not do because I.
What about a Hindu?
Same thing.
What about a Buddhist?
Same thing.
I mean, these are people that push their religion and they're not going to compromise it. And most of them not going to sit down and critique it in front of the whole round world, because it's their belief. And in some cases, it's their, they have factual background to prove some of their beliefs. So I don't get it. When everybody want to beat up on the church, that means it must be something right.
And the church beats up on everybody.
No.
Because
the church got
who is the most virulent opponents to LGBTQ? The church.
Well,
the church.
No, brother. Islam as well.
Okay.
Buddhism as well.
I can't.
Yeah, hold on. No.
I don't know if
They're
Buddhism...
not out front. Hold on. They're not out front carrying the cross, carrying the banner. See, but they are, man. In some Muslim states, countries, you get caught doing that. You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna execute you, man.
Okay.
I mean, you see what I'm saying? But see, Christianity is a radical. Is when it comes down to their belief, they're pretty loud and boisterous, pretty much like the black man. We radical, and we carry the weight. We carry the water really for Christianity. The black man.
One of the problems, or one of the conflicts I have, is this idea of evangelism and proselytizing. And they're only, well, I know, and I know Dr. Williams pointed this out, but when you look at the two religions in the world that actually go out and promote membership and to go out and recruit members, is Christianity and Islam, right? Where other religions, you're born into it. You're a Hindu, culturally you're Hindu. You're a Buddhist, you're a Buddhist. So for us to do that, and then everything that goes along with that expansion, wars have been fought under the guise of religion. There's a message that I'm going to work on called "Stop Lying on God." And a lot of things that we do, we say God told us to do it. That God was nowhere near that. That was us.
Well, I agree with that. That's like folk blame the devil. The devil ain't have nothing to do with that. You went over there and did that. Okay, so I get that concept, but what bothers me is that I'm not willing, and anybody that's down for the cause. See, that's when James talks about a wavering man. See, when you're a wavering man, then you toss to and fro. But when you solid on what because all this stuff could be wrong, as far as I know. But guess what? I'm man enough to grab onto something and stand by it.
You know what's right though? How I treat you. That's right.
I agree.
Okay.
But you wouldn't know how to treat me if there wasn't some guidelines to treating me right.
And that's what I say. And that's the power of religion. That it does give us our ethos. It does give us our morals. I think that sometimes though, then we take that because I don't know if it's a gene in human beings that this sense of being superior to other human beings. But I think that what Christianity should do for me is modify my behavior where I don't give it to my worst instincts.
Okay. What about life after death?
What about it?
I mean, Christianity. See, this is what separates Christianity from the rest of most of that mess.
Okay.
The Muslims have kind of adopted to it, but with this virgin thing going to heaven and all that, but that's not really in their doctrine. Their doctrine, man. Muhammad didn't really teach that. Listen, man, they've always taught when you're dead, you're dead. See, the thing about Christianity is that you get a chance to live again after this life.
But until you die, you have to live here. And I don't know why we putting so much premium on after we die.
Because the fear of death.
Okay.
The fear of death. See, what's more scarier? The thought of dying or death itself?
I don't know.
You know the thought of death is more fearful than death, because when death comes, you're dead.
I ain't never died. I couldn't tell you.
Okay, I tell you what. All I know is when you take the long nap, you take the long nap. But the thought of dying is an everyday occurrence. I ain't going to that gas station. I might get set up. I might get the flu. Oh, I'm sick. Oh, Lord, don't let this be the last time I get sick. Don't let this fever pass. See, let me explain something to you.
Survival is the basic instinct that all existence is about survival. So yes, I want to survive, and if I die, that means I didn't survive. So yes.
The thought of death is more fearful than death itself.
It can be.
You agree with that?
But I think,
and you've been preaching funerals.
I think also that if I do what I need to do here, the afterlife will take care of itself.
How can the afterlife take care of itself if nobody's there to live in the afterlife? Should there be one?
I know you all up in there, man. I'm dealing with, and I know that people say that in terms of part of Semitic religion is that they believe in either death or resurrection. But
now, do you understand? That's what makes Christianity great, man. It separates us. See, Jesus rose again. See, the blood that was shed. See, most of these groups,
okay,
and I talk to Muslims all the time.
That's a catechism, and if that's what you believe, that's what you believe.
Okay,
but that has nothing to do with. No, it does. What Jesus taught us to do, and I think that sometimes we get into everything except what Jesus taught us to do. And I think that I remember hearing this guy.
But you can do everything Jesus taught you to do, and don't accept the sacrificial sacrifice for your sin. See, without the shedding of blood, there's no remission of sin. Why do you think?
I got all of that, man. But what I'm saying.
Well, then explain that to me.
Until I die, I have to live. How am I living my life before I die? You know, I'm living my eulogy right now.
Do you ever ask God to forgive you?
All the time.
Okay, what are you using to get forgiveness?
What do you mean? What am I using?
I mean, what format? I mean, what qualifies me and you to go before this Almighty God and ask for forgiveness? What covers us? What covers our sin?
You've asked two different questions.
Okay, when you go to God and ask Him to forgive you, what gives you the right to ask for forgiveness?
I don't know if I have a right, but I certainly do ask for forgiveness.
So how do you know you're being forgiven? What washes away your sins? See, these other groups, Doc, the Muslims, the Hindus, all of these people, the Sikhs, they don't have a sacrificial sacrifice for their sins. See, we need a sacrifice.
I'm sure they all have a.
Well, sure, they go get some fruit and they burn them in front of Buddha.
Hold on. What were the Jews doing? We just in Sunday school have been talking about the altar and sacrifices that people made. So
that's right.
Human beings have done that. I think that part of conversion, and I'm only going to talk about Christian conversion. Part of Christian conversion is that one comes to themselves and one begins to realize that I am not the most complete human being that I can be. What is getting in the way? So I'm more mindful of my negative behavior. You know, you hear that beatitude, blessed is he that mourn, for he shall be comforted. We use it at funerals, and I think, okay, you can, but that's not what Jesus was talking about. Jesus talked about those who were convicted by their behavior, and you mourn so much because of the wrong that you've done. He says, then the Spirit will give you comfort, right? You can move on.
Once you got all of that, how do you, the Muslims, once a year, they sacrifice a red heifer for the sacrifice, the sin of the people.
It's symbolic. It don't have no change. It's symbolic. Your baptism by water is symbolic. I
go along with that being symbolic.
No, but I'm saying your baptism by water. I don't know if you grew up Baptist. We baptized by immersion. My pastor, Pastor Wanzel, used to say, you go in the water, a dry devil, you come up a wet devil. It's just symbolic of this conversion.
You're right. But
so all I'm saying, it has no real power.
Let me draw my point, then I'm going to get out of here because I done took up too much time. I'm surprised you're giving me this much. Listen, let me draw my point.
Now that I thought about it, cut them off. No, go on, man.
No. It ain't the problem. Cut off my better.
Go on, man.
But listen, check this out. The reason why Christians rely on the forgiveness and to be able to be redeemed back to God is through Jesus. This is what makes Jesus different. Because the blood that ran through Jesus' veins was not that of A negative or O positive or some of that such. It was that divine, because we understand that the female bodies, you're scientists, the female body does not have the essential elements to give blood to the fetus. So we know that upon the male sperm introduction with the egg, it gives life to the fetus. That's where you get your blood from, your dad. That's where you get the veins from. The DNA comes from the dad.
Here's the bottom line.
So the DNA, hold on. So the DNA that ran through Jesus' veins was good enough to redeem us back, because man had failed back in creation when Adam sinned, man. I mean, God couldn't make another man because the ground had been cursed. Okay. So years and years and years went by, and guess what? He sent his beloved son.
Brother
guess
preacher.
What? That was born of a virgin. And even the Muslims.
Brother preacher.
Well, come on now.
Brother preacher. That is allegory.
Well, I tell you what, allegory, but check this here out, and I agree with you. I won't fight you on it. But why don't you call me in with some of them scholars that you got someday, and let's have a talk on the divine birth of Christ, which gives me and you that
after Jesus was born, Jesus for 3 years walked. Don't try to cut me off of my show. Oh, I hear music. I've heard music when you was talking. You kept on talking, right? Yeah, right. I hear music.
Go ahead and talk.
I guess I'll go to a break before I make my point. Appreciate you, BC. Listen to community. You listen to community. Oh, I hear the music.
Over my head.
When I'm talking.
I hear music.
The music was playing when he was talking. He ain't heard nothing. He ain't heard nothing. All right, Carl, I see you. I'm going to grab you right after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, and callers real quickly, and we do have some guests coming in. Caller, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
This is the Reverend Dr. Andrew Ward. And I had cautioned you many times before about the Reverend that you just let off the phone taking too long, and he gave you an out. He said he's gonna cut it short, and you kept on going into your circular argument and debate. I want to make another point. I think you almost said this earlier, that just about all religions have about the same rules, tenets, or whatever. Be good, and don't cheat, and don't kill, and all of that. And I was subbing at Parkman, later called Douglas, and they didn't have a principal. They had a teacher leader who came into my class, interrupted the class, and gave us a sermon, a Jewish sermon about the holiest of all days. And you know, with me big now, I had to make a few points on you. I asked him, how was this the holiest day? And I told him the Jewish religion is, while it might be different with the other religions, they have about the same tenets, don't kill, don't cheat, and be good, all of that. Anyway, I'm going to let that be. I'm not going to do like your last Reverend. Take up too much time, particularly in a secular debate or argument. You have a good one.
All right. Who won? All right, call. Welcome to the program.
Just a second, let me turn this radio around.
Yeah, that'll work.
Well, the truth is the light, and it always wins. And I first want to make an apology to Brother Meech's biological family, and thank you for clarifying that I was talking about the MAGA family that is imploding before our eyes, with his dad and his mom, whichever one you want to call him, mom or dad, Trump or Musk. And apologize to his family for the fact that he's willing to lie every day on radio, and when fact checked, he wants to call me names. So when I met him the one time when he had the clock in his hat and he was dressed like Cat Williams, I knew he was a person that, even though he's an elder, a little bit older than myself, I would never want to be like, because I would have to be void of all logic when it comes to this particular Confederate cult.
Okay.
And with that said, the Ku Klux Klan, Keith, if I'm not mistaken, was a Christian nonprofit, correct? Funded by the government at some point? Okay. And when it comes to religion overall, I think you made a great point that the great thespian Charles Dutton's character in Menace to Society made, right? If Islam and Allah makes my son a better man, which doesn't excuse people from, based on what Meech is saying, you can dismember people or eat people like Jeffrey Dahmer and say, I'm sorry, because the things that you do on earth don't mean anything. Or you can starve people around the world by canceling vital programs when, Jesus said, clothe the naked and feed the hungry, correct?
That's correct.
And a coward dies 1,000 deaths, Keith. So when you're really walking in whatever spirit that you walk in, whether you believe in the sun gods like the original religion that most religions follow, and just know that you're going to be taken care of, and God has not brought you this far to leave you. People who I see that actually, particularly Christians, who attempt to be Christ-like, which I have always been taught that that's the definition of Christianity. When they die, if they don't die suddenly, they die very calmly and peacefully. And people like our brother, who are always worried about their cowardly and dastardly deeds, and the people who they embrace, they worry about that. And they embrace that afterlife. And I think that's something that, the angelical Christians who follow this cult and who are the battery of this cult, this Confederate cult that our brother supports and ignores the economy piece, where we spent $200 million more than we did last year when Black MAGA, that little small percentage who voted against all of us, about 87 to 90%, they were voting for the economy, right, Keith?
So well, let me do this, man. You're making some great points, but my guest are here. But
okay,
point taken, man. Appreciate you.
No Juwana man in the WNBA yet, right?
No Juwana man, not yet.
Okay, so Brother Meach, I'm sorry. You were a nice guy, but you were a funny head. I would never want to be like you, and you ain't no player.
All right. All right. With that said, we're gonna transition from that. I didn't do it. What's your first name, Captain? Jeremiah. We have Captain Jeremiah Jacks.
Yes.
All right. And Brother Derek Smith. And we're here to talk about Juneteenth. But something that's really important there is how we're going to have a very safe Juneteenth. And so we're here to talk about, I hate to use the word security, but I'm sure, for lack of a better term, that's what we're talking about, right?
Correct. Yes.
Well, good morning. My name is again Derek Smith. I'm with Staff Security. I'm the chair and co-chair of the for the security for Juneteenth every year. And as you said, our goal every year is to make sure that we have a safe and eventful event for Juneteenth.
So I'm sorry. No, I was going to ask. So, and again, I'm using this term, but I think, we're dealt. So in terms of some of the security measures, what are we looking at?
Well, some of the things that we want to make sure is that we want to make sure that, number one, people are able to come with a mindset that we want to have an enjoyable event. So with that, we want to make sure that we're not coming with weapons or things that that could cause harm to someone else. But normally we want to make sure that our security protocols are set up so that we have good flow with traffic when we have the parade, that we are making sure that we are able to have everybody safe as the parade is going on. We want to make sure that the young children, the minors, that they are safe and out of harm's way and not being put in positions of harm coming to them. So,
and we have, we talk about what you have in terms of security, the private security, but we also have the police department and the sheriff's department. Am I correct?
Correct.
So talk about your presence there and how you contribute then to having this safe environment there at Juneteenth Day.
I'm Captain Jeremiah Jacks. I'm the commander of the 5th District. Juneteenth Day parade and the celebration has always traditionally been held in the district. Our main goals is obviously for the parade is to make sure everyone has a safe, enjoyable experience, to give the opportunity for the public, particularly our youth, to have an opportunity to see a great celebration, a great parade. But our role for the police department is to make sure that we have traffic blocked off to make sure that no one's driving in a parade that is not supposed to be there.
That did happen a couple of years.
That did happen a couple of years ago. So we want to make sure that there's some safety there. We want to make sure that people are.
They were safe, but it was long, man.
It was long. I want to make sure the crowds are safe. People sitting on the sidewalks. Just people in the area. We don't want to be known as like an overwhelming force, but we're there just for people to make sure that they feel safe and that we're there for everyone else's enjoyment by blocking off traffic during a parade and it's being like a presence. But during the Juneteenth Day celebration, my officers are going to be there. They'll be walking around. They'll be interacting with the public more as like friends. We're also there for safety. I like to think of us as like the last resort, right? We want people to have fun, have a good time, We want people to behave. We have the security team that will step in, other partner groups that will step in if there's a minor disturbance, and ultimately we're there as the case of last resort if someone actually does need to be removed. But overall, we want to have a fun family event. We want the city to come out to enjoy this great day. Hopefully, it's going to be some great weather.
Yeah, man. As long as it don't rain, I'll take the heat. As long as it don't rain. Okay, here's the real important stuff. I got two things I gotta ask. One, will y'all have baseball cards?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Cards.
All right. Here's the second one. Will the ice cream truck be there?
The ice cream truck will be there.
Ah, there you go.
For you guys looking, it's going to be closer to the kids zone.
Okay.
There. The sheriff's department will be helping out. We also have like a teen zone. The sheriff's department is going to be there, mainly focused on that area right there. We have a lot of, preventative measures to make sure everyone's being safe, but we're just there for the support of this parade.
And the cool thing about it, and it has always been, is always how even when we look at the police and law enforcement on that day, everybody is, they don't look at you as popo, It's just like, and I think, and obviously now that whole baseball card thing, I was just asking a couple other officers at another event how popular that was, but how good that is in terms of, we always talk about this community policing and how people view the police. And I think that certainly the presence at Juneteenth Day has always been positive when I look at certainly the police department and the sheriff's department being there and the security. And we've been very fortunate because we've not had an incident during Juneteenth. There you go. Afterwards, but not during Juneteenth. And I don't know how much of that is an education that we should do, particularly for young people, to understand the significance of this day and what it means for us as descendants of enslaved African people. And maybe on that day, for lack of a better term, it should be somewhat sacred in terms of what it means for us, because it was that first step, in our liberation from enslavement. So when you're getting there, but I always feel safe at Juneteenth. I've never had a sense of all the years I've gone where I've never felt safe at Juneteenth. And we got young people. Sometimes young people do what young people do. But I think the great thing that I've seen is how quickly you all get in to, just to dissipate it, to shut it down before it really gets out of hand.
Yeah, and that's most importantly. I would definitely want to make sure the young people understand the significance of this day and what it took to get there and what it took to get to where we are today in society. I think that's kind of a little bit lost on our society of the young people. But hopefully being a part of these, allowing them to be a part of the event, coming in, seeing all this great positivity that it has for the parade and for the celebration afterwards. And it's to take it all in and to appreciate something that we truly do have here, a parade that's been going on for 54 years. Mm-hmm. And it's a big part of our city. It's one of the things that when you think of the city of Milwaukee, you think of their Juneteenth Day parade and the festival and how we want to have a good, safe time for everyone.
What else do people need to know in terms of coming there? You already talked about there be certain streets blocked off, and that's for security purposes, obviously. Anything else folks need to know?
One of the things we definitely need people to understand is the weapons, the toy guns, the blasters, the pop. I don't know what the most of what these new things that they carry around, but these are things that we want to make sure that people understand. We want to leave these things at home. This is not the day for those type of activities. So the water guns, the water blasters, the little BB guns, anything of that nature, we want people to leave that at home. Also, we want people to leave their guns at home. I understand a lot of people, the first thing they want to say is, hey, I have a CCW. I'm allowed to do this. Again, these are things that we're asking you, please leave it at home. This is not the event for that. This is, we have kids out here. This is a day of celebration for us, to be able for the city to come out, to be able to celebrate. We're not, we're not looking or expecting people to come down to be looking for trouble. That's not what we're looking for. We want people to come down and celebrate, to have a good time. So we asking everyone, please just leave, make this a day that we leave our weapons at home. You know, we don't need that, because you're not going to be allowed to walk around with them on your hips, or we find we're going to ask you to leave. So, and let's not have to go through that. Let's just leave the weapons at home. Also, we're asking people that if you're going to come down to the festival, if at all possible, if you want to carry a book bag, to make sure that it's a clear book bag, so that again, this is for safety. We're not telling you you can have one. We're just asking that if you have to have one, if you can make it a clear book bag, fanny pack, whatever it is that you want to carry. They have these things now. We're going to actually, I believe we are going to have someone down on the festival grounds that'll be actually passing those out. We want to make that the going forward, the material for Juneteenth going forward. So we're just asking everybody, if you can, please, if you have to have a bag, excuse me, just try to make it a clear one. Excuse me. Also, one of the biggest things we have every year, I know you like your pets, your dogs, your cats, and you want to bring them to show them off. But again, for safety reasons, we're asking that, again, please leave your pets at home for the day, or leave them where
the snake guy won't be able to bring a snake.
Yeah,
man.
we can't do snake guy.
Yeah, snake guy come every year with that snake man.
Snake guy, lizard guy, monkey guy. Yeah. Again, and I know people always ask, like, why, it's just a small dog or whatever. But the thing about where animals are is, especially in a large crowd, pets react. They react differently, so while you may have a loving pet one moment, a little kid or somebody that wants to come and pick up or pet may not react, the same way as they would with you. So again, we're asking that you please, for this day, that you please leave your dogs, cats, goldfish, snakes, monkeys, lizards, just leave them at home.
What about the people, though, who really have companion dogs? I mean,
now, companion dogs are definitely always accepted. We ask that you please, if you have to have a service dog, make sure that you have the animal with the vest on, or you have your credentials to show that this is actually a service dog. So we definitely don't want to turn anybody away that actually, has a reason to have it.
Captain Jacks?
I was just saying to our youth, if you have beef with someone, leave that at home. This is not the time and place for it. We're here to like celebrate. We want to have a good time. It's not worth getting into an argument or a fight or shooting over some nonsense ever, but don't bring it here. Most importantly, I know people don't like to be known as a snitch, but it's always very important, especially in large crowds. If you see something, say something. You don't want to tell the police, tell one of these security team or one of the volunteers that can get us the information. I would rather prevent something from happening, prevent someone from having to be arrested, than versus having to take police action.
Appreciate both of you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, again, Juneteenth, the 54th annual Juneteenth date happening on, let's see, June 19th.
Yes.
What day is Juneteenth on? The 19th, dog.
People ask that question.
They ask that question.
Well, it could be the 16th and 17th and 18th. It's still in the teens, though.
Yeah, and the crazy thing was, the reason why we call it Juneteenth is because we messed it up with our limited understanding of English, so it became Juneteenth, But anyway, appreciate you, Captain Jacks, Brother Derek Smith. We appreciate you again. Juneteenth, that will be on Thursday, June 19th. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
On WNOV 860 AM and 106.5 FM with your host, Keith Parris.
All right, welcome back. Let me, and I don't know how much of this has to do with, I'm sure it does, my psychosis. But, and I think maybe certainly working here has really reinforced this idea of time, right? And so I had the great privilege and opportunity to eulogize Miss Linda Fanning on Saturday. That funeral was 1 hour and 26 minutes. 1 hour and 26 minutes.
Man, that's
now
like a record.
People would go, "Oh man," and we had church, which I think a homegoing for a saint should be.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be sad.
Yeah.
It should be joyous. But man, I got this thing about how, and look, being a person who's addicted to the microphone, I'm just talking to all my fellow addicts, because I said this microphone is like crack. You get people, man, they get up with the microphone and they just don't know how to stop. You know what I mean? Because don't encourage them. Don't encourage me by saying amen. Oh, that's another 2 minutes. You know, so, but no, I just, you know, we can get it done. And, you know, that's one of the challenges going forward, where, for example, who was it? My guy was just preaching for Otis Moss. West, Church Without Walls down in Houston. He preached for Otis Moss III. He said he was talking to Dr. Moss, and he said, because that's his buddy, he said, "Otis, how much time do I have?" And I think they're on the 30-minute clock. He said, "Oh man, that's cool," because he said, "I only got 27 minutes." What people don't understand is that the average adult attention span is about 22 minutes.
Yeah.
Where you truly have their attention.
Yeah.
22 minutes.
Yeah.
After that, they may or may not be, I'm talking about the audience, they may or may not be paying attention to you. And then they're not going to retain most of what you talk about. And it's really amazing. And this is not just in, you know, in sacred environments. You know, I was also a manager where I'd have groups of people there, and what people hear will amaze you. So, you know, and just the time piece. Time is the most valuable thing the Creator gives us. Time. And I think that sometimes we just get up, like, you know, I hope I'm not being repetitive or redundant, you know, where it's us. But some folks, man, when you give them the microphone, oh man. And my favorite one is, "I'm not a public speaker." Then why are you up here talking for 15 minutes publicly?
That part.
I had a brother Terry, my classmate down at American Baptist. Every Tuesday evening, freshmen had to do, they call Vesper, right? It'd be your freshman sermon. And this is a school of preachers. So, you know, look, it is your preaching, right? It is your preaching. And depending on who you were, you could get a whole lot of people at your Vesper, or you get nobody at your Vesper, right? There were certain people in my class that they wanted, I'm talking about my brother preachers, wanted to come here. They came looking like, you know, we call it in the sermon dying. Okay? They looking for you to die, which means that you failed spectacularly.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to happen at my Vesper.
I know that's right.
Because they already didn't like me.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't give a reason. Because, oh, dude, I was 18. I'd be talking. I talked so much stuff when I was 18. I'd just be talking, man. They be going like, this dude. Oh, no. And I said, if I never preached before or again that night, because the worst thing, and anybody can tell, you know this with musicians, the worst thing you can do is have a bad performance in front of your peers.
Yeah, because they ain't gonna let it die.
They ain't gonna let it die. There's already rivalry there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like I heard the comedian tell a joke that you at the funeral and you mad because your pastor didn't get to do the eulogy. Now you got all those preachers sitting back there behind you in the audience, and they're going like, "Oh, they chose right out."
Right.
If you ain't feeling no pressure, you know, you because they know how the sausage is made. Yeah. Your peers know how the sausage is made. Mm-hmm. You hear things as a musician that lay people don't hear. Yeah. Because you are a musician. That's a trained ear. Yeah. That's a trained ear. And so, you know, you sit there and then, you know, me, I'm coming in the door hating. You know, I'm all folded up when I walk in. Yeah, hate. They be playing my little Hater Nation thing. No, I'm sitting there hating every chance I get, man. And then because someone told me one time, they said, dude, if you knew how bad such and such talked about you behind your back. And my response to them was, if such and such knew how bad I talked about them behind their back, you know, I mean, but I just know that pressure is there. You know, you can, and what it can do is it can elevate your performance where normally you might have just kind of been pretty pedestrian, but no, there's something there because you can feel it.
Oh yeah,
you can feel it, man. I just learned that, and I know everybody's saying, "Well, the Lord don't care." The Lord don't care, but we do.
Yeah.
You know, when you hit a bad note, the Lord don't care.
Yeah,
but we do. We do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that we were just sitting up there looking, and that kind of gets us back to the point I was trying to make with Meech, that it is our behavior. Look, it's hard, man. Man, if you just it's hard. And especially when you start talking about, because usually our sin is with other people, or about other people, right? You know, and that's hard. I told him Saturday, I might not be as saved as you want me to be. You know, that because we do have a higher expectation of what Jermaine's salvation to be compared to mine. Because look, Lord know my heart. I'm just out here trying every day. But Jermaine, that boy's from the very pits of hell.
Gasoline draws.
You know, and we do, you know, it's and that's hard, man. I mean, because when you sit up and you know, that's on check yourself or you wreck yourself. Don't believe the hype. You know, that people come up. I'm always, and I appreciate people coming up saying how well I do, and then when they don't come up, I know. I'll never forget, we were down at Rhonda's Ancestral Church in Miami, and they had a guest preacher. And the way, because they, you know, depending on who you had, your professor at American Baptist talk about how we should sit in the pulpit. Now, I do things that drive people nuts because I sit with my legs crossed, right? But I got a shoe game. So
look at the bottom of these red bottoms.
Look at these red bottoms. I got a shoe game. So this dude was sprawled all over the chair like he was a great doctor. I mean, you know, he just, oh my God, he's sprawled all over the chair. And I said, the way that Negro sitting in the chair, he better preach this morning. That Negro got up. He died 1,000 deaths. And then the crazy thing was, you know, when you died a real bad death is when the church mothers don't come up and say anything to you. Because church mothers give you all, oh, honey, keep on keeping on. You be encouraged. Let the Lord use you.
They don't say that.
When they don't say that, when you just get like total silence. Woo!
Well, you done made the church mothers.
Oh man, I got mad. If the church mothers don't say anything to me, I know I'm in trouble. Because oh Lord, no, man, yeah. But that brother got up there, and I was going like, because I was sitting back there going like, well, the way he's sitting in this chair, he must can preach.
He's sitting like he owned it.
He's sitting like he owned it, man. Or you see certain people come up, Mr. Randy Watson.
Oh man,
Mr. Randy Watson get up there, man, and then he mad because when nobody getting into him, he get mad, drop the mic, walk off.
I mean, what preachers have to understand is, yes, you're preaching to the people, but you're not preaching for the response of the people.
Yes, you are.
Even though,
yes, you are.
I know, but the whole
you
thing,
a black preacher. yes,
yeah.
you are.
Because if they don't respond,
and there's some Pentecostal white preachers. Oh, yes, you are.
Yeah,
that's what made COVID so hard, man.
Yeah,
because you don't get no response. You just got
the audience. It's crickets.
That's my shout line right there. Keep on reading.
Yeah.
Keep on reading.
Tell the Lord thank you. Ain't nobody out there.
Ain't nobody out there because they on mute.
Yeah,
they on mute, so they can.
Boy,
man, I was just like, and let me shout out my hero, the Reverend Doctor, the Reverend John Wesley McVicker. He was so transparent. He said that's why I went back to church, and I preach it there, where you at least have 2 or 3 people back there saying amen. And it's our conditioning, and I didn't realize how conditioned I was until I had to do telechurch.
Yeah, Doc. And that was rough for a lot of preachers.
Man, it was rough for a whole lot of us because, that call and response is so part of our African DNA that, I mean, it ain't just in church.
Yeah.
When hip hop, call and response.
Energy,
everybody, we want to know that the audience, because there is that connection that you need to have, with the audience, man. And then when you're not getting that, because people say you do it for the money. I think sometimes you do it because you're getting some affirmation.
And that is true, man.
You're getting some affirmation.
When you see people, just from the music standpoint, when you see people vibing to the music that you're playing, that you're doing, that energy that they giving back to you, make you dig in more.
Right.
And so, that's true.
And that's why when people go to Europe or they go to Japan, because there's a certain politeness that people have when you're performing. Where in America, we everybody all in. You go to a rock concert, everybody all in, and you got people being able to respond. And I think that becomes important because there's something called, a catharsis.
Oh yeah.
That a lot of times you just need to emotionally release. I got this book. This brother passed. I can't think of Ralph Wiley. And he wrote the book, Sometimes You Just Want to Holler. I don't know if you ever been at that point where it just seems like you just overwhelmed. You just
need to release.
Holler, release.
You gotta release.
Just need to let it out. Never forget this sister when she get the shouting in the church and the ushers come, because we are Baptists. Ushers coming to comfort you and to calm you down. And she used to say, "Let me go, nigga. Let me go." I thought, first time I said, I didn't hear that. The second time, but based on everything that woman was going through in her life,
she needed to release.
She needed to release, man. I mean, you, and I think that becomes part of, that becomes part of the worship experience. That becomes part of a concert experience. That you just able to, just for a moment, man, just get to a place where you go like, oh man.
But yeah, that's true. Cause even on the flip side, going out to the clubs. You had a long, stressful week. You just want to go out and just dance a little bit. Friday night, you just
got
dance.
paid.
Hey,
you just want to dance.
You just want to dance.
Just
to
dance.
release.
You want to be able to release, man. And one of the great things, maybe I'll write the book about being a worship leader. But I tell the story, man. I went to the Cotton Club in Chicago. They did open mic. I'm telling you, man, that was as close to secular church as you ever gonna get, because everybody was on like this one accord, and you get the you get the groove, like the roof, and everybody. And I do see my brother over here who's a Q. And man, don't put Atomic Dog on.
Man, yeah, he turned up the whole studio.
Don't put Atomic Dog on, because that
he gonna turn into He-Man.
And we find out every Q that's in the joint that night.
Doc, I mean, the whole building getting so up.
And that's really amazing, man. How you adopt certain things. Yeah. And I was talking to an Alpha brother. I said, "But y'all be out there dancing?" He said, "Yeah, but we don't be barking."
So what's the difference, man? Because I never really understood that whole thing. I used to see them on, the Alphas and Kappas, and I don't even know if I'm saying are Q Dogs. But what's the difference?
No, they are.
They different organizations.
Different organizations.
No, I'm saying, but they do the same thing, right?
Yeah, give or take, pretty much.
Yeah. It's part of when you look at the Elks, the Mooses, the fraternal order, water buffalo. It's a fraternal order. It is a brotherhood, a sisterhood, right? And you come together and you have like there's mutual things that you do. But yeah, let me because I only got a few minutes left. Again, shout out to Coco Gauff. Just watched her. I was able to watch the first set and she lost in the tiebreaker, but after that, there's something about Coco Gauff that when she has that determined look on her face, she's hard to beat.
Yeah,
she's hard to beat, man.
She looked like she was channeled in.
She looked determined. When she looked determined, you can cancel Christmas. Yeah. And I know the brother called in talking to Michelle. The woman was saying that, I made a lot of mistakes. Okay, it's called a match.
Yeah.
We always talk about in basketball, what do we talk about? Turnovers, right? Yeah. And those teams with the least amount of turnovers, the least amount of mistakes, usually will win the game.
Yeah.
You usually win, which gets us to now, you folks, and I just can't believe y'all jumping on the Pacers bandwagon.
Yeah, man.
Come on, man.
Now, I am a Bucks fan. Man, I've been a Bucks fan since I know. Hold on, I've been a Bucks fan since I was born because of my daddy. So I'm true. Green, man. I bleed green, purple, red, white, all of them colors that they had. However, Indiana and OKC, man. First of all, you can tell that the NBA really wasn't even invested in game one because they didn't even have the final sign on the floor. So they didn't even care about game one. Somebody said something about it, and then they got all these signs on the floor now for game two. Yeah, we ain't gonna put no championship trophy. I mean, the trophy last night when you was looking at the markings on the floor, it looked all fake and stuff. Like normally they had a trophy right in the middle, and the NBA Finals was written on the floor. Now they was, if you go pull the footage from game one.
Look,
you don't see now one still like a regular game.
The best thing can happen is what happened in game one, where it comes down to the wire. And I asked both Byron and I asked Jermaine this question. So is OKC 20 points better?
No. Not
Did y'all think that at the beginning of the series?
Honestly, no. I did. I mean, since I'm telling the truth and shaming the devil, I thought OKC was just gonna sweep them, man. It was just a sweep. They was gonna blow them boys out and run with it, and that's what they probably thought until they got into game one and realized, like Mike Tyson said, everybody got a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Right, and I think they underestimated.
Yeah. And realizing that them boys can hit hard.
Yeah.
So when they got punched, they was like, ooh.
No, you got to take them out.
Yeah.
And you noticed last night,
they
didn't let up.
And you saw how Shea was playing. Shea was playing with a determination.
Oh, man, they wasn't letting up.
They
wasn't letting up. And that's what you got to do. And I know, look, we want it to be competitive. Obviously, for those of us, we want 7 games.
Yeah.
Especially with this crew, these two teams, we definitely want
we need 9 games with
right, 9 games, right?
Yeah,
we definitely want so but when I watched them last night, they looked like the OKC team that played during the regular season. Yeah. That first game they did not because they don't let teams back in it. And and people tell you it's the NBA, man, just because they're up by 20 in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And especially this team got a history. Yeah. The Pacers have a history of being able to come back.
Man.
So if you don't, but at some point you could look OKC look like they were a little bit more mature.
Yeah.
And so we'll see.
But that cat, what's his name? Nimhart, the light skinned dude with the braids. What's his name?
That's a
Nimhart. Okay. And then the other guy
dude.
with the Hitler mustache.
Right, with the He looked like a little boy out there, man.
Yeah, he looked like a little bad boy out there playing. But they him and that other guy, man, that was Chris Middleton, that was his mentor. The cat that was
Smith.
Those three guys, man.
Don't let him get hot.
I mean, bro. Like, and yesterday though, he started to heat up.
Yeah, he hit that shot in the corner. Like, y'all need to shut that down.
Yeah.
Because that dude hit, what did he hit? 7 straight?
Yeah.
8 straight against the Knicks.
Yeah.
Let me also shout out Portugal yesterday in the United European Football Association. They won on penalty kicks. And the Canadian Open came down to sudden death.
Wow.
And they did 4. And it wasn't until the guy, and you know what it comes down to? Who made a mistake.
Yep, it's always.
And the guy made a mistake. And after that, man, and then you just got to take advantage of it. So anyway, good weekend for sports.
Yeah.
You know, if you're paying attention. So again, let me thank Brother Smith. Let me thank Captain Jax. Byron, thank you. Jermaine, thank you.
Indeed, sir.
Good Lord willing, creek don't rise. Hope to talk to everybody tomorrow. And as always, go from this place in peace.